Oh yeah, and what am I supposed to do with chopsticks without a bowl? Eat from the container, idiot. Rukia proceeded to break up her pair of chopsticks, and grabbed a large helping of noodles from the container. I've done it lots of times, she announced proudly. The large bead of sweat dropped. Geez, fine, fine. Ichigo sighed as he scooted closer to Rukia. He waited till she had started chewing on her noodles before digging his chopsticks into the container. He just realized how hungry he was, and proceeded to eat the noodles. However, being Ichigo, he took such a large helping that he couldn't eat it all in one bite, so he let some of the noodles hang down over the container. Rukia finished her first mouthful, swallowed, and said, "Yuck. Don't slobber all over the container." Ichigo, with his mouth still full, replied angrily, "Itf woudent had happened if Thumon had bort a bor." Rukia stared at him. What? Ichigo rolled his eyes, and Rukia shook her head, muttering to herself about how people shouldn't talk with their mouth full. She took another helping of the noodles, not noticing that because Ichigo had let the noodles hang loose over the container, she had accidentally gotten some of his noodles. Ichigo, on the other hand, decided to let Rukia win all the arguments while his mouth was still full, but as soon as he would finish. He never finished his next thought. What he saw, directly in front of him, and only a few inches away, was a very startled Rukia. His face soon turned the same color as hers, as they both realized that they were eating the same noodle, and because of the shock, they just kept chewing slowly, coming closer, and closer, and closer, and... What the heck? I'm... Ichigo was basically pleading for his body to stop moving forward. It's just Rukia. Rukia, on the other hand, just kept coming closer and closer, till all that was left between them was the one noodle. Ichigo looked at her eyes. They were wide, open, and innocent. Their lips met, for the tiniest of seconds. And then, just as quick as it had started, it finished. They suddenly recoiled, as if realizing what they had done. Seconds, then minutes passed. That was mine. Rukia broke the uncomfortable silence. Huh? Ichigo didn't understand, and Rukia just laughed silently inside of herself. Ichigo was still young, after all. That was my noodle. What? The astonishment quickly turned to anger. What do you mean that was yours? It was in my chopsticks. Rukia turned around. Yeah, whatever, she said in an annoyingly airy voice. Ichigo growled under his breath. DMNU. Rukia turned back, facing him. Ichigo's angry face was just too funny, and he was staring at her like he wanted to bore a hole through her body with his eyes. She scrunched up her face and poked out her tongue. Naya. Ichigo sighed. DMN those mangas. To be continued. A summer job, midnight meetings. The stars shone on Soul Society. Well, twinkling. The 10th Division captain noted this, as he rolled his head back, looking at the sky. Hitsugaya Toshiro stood in front of the vice-captain's quarters of the 5th Division. He ran a hand through his white-blue hair. It was pretty late, and not much Shinigamis were around, well none walking around this are of the 5th Division. He lifted his hand to knock. And stopped. There was no way that he was going to knock on her door this time of night. She'd be sleeping anyway. He turned around, quietly, as all captains do, then stopped. But what if she wasn't sleeping? And he really needed to apologize to her for what he had done. Geez, just thinking about it made him blush. He turned around again, now facing her door. Once again he lifted his hand to knock. The night seemed to grow quieter. Arg, stuff it. He pulled back his clenched fist and knocked. Well, he tried to. His fist swung through empty air, then met the forehead of the pretty vice-captain. The walking vice-captain now fell backwards, quite fast, but Toshiro was faster. He quickly stepped behind her, and caught her. Whoops. He just knocked out the person that he wanted to apologize. 2. This did not bode well. Rukia? Ichigo looked at his Shinigami friend, sprawled out in the sparse grass, stargazing. It's late. So. Rukia didn't pull her eyes off the stars. So, it's dark, DMN Rukia, she never listened to him. And we have to get back. No we don't. Still stargazing. Your brother will kill me. That initiated some movement. Rukia pulled her gaze away from the stars and rolled onto her side, facing Ichigo. What? Ichigo suddenly was aware of her proximity. She didn't say anything. He really will. Ichigo widened his eyes and waved his one free arm around in the air. Rukia still didn't say anything, she just continued staring at him. For some reason she was seriously making him uncomfortable. What? Maybe she's thinking about what happened this afternoon. Nothing. Rukia pulled her gaze away from his face. Ichigo let out an inward sigh. Fine, let's go. What was with that? Yeah. After packing up the picnic, Ichigo slung the bag over his shoulder, school bag style. They walked together in silence down the hill. Ichigo peeked a glance at her. She sensed him looking at her, and looked upwards in a frown. What? Nothing. Ichigo turned his head forward again. How come she could look so coolly at him, then when he even looked at her for 1 second, she got angry. He stomped forward. Oi Ichigo. Her voice came from behind him. Yeah. He slowed down a bit, letting her catch up with his long stride. Are you afraid of my brother? A moment of silence. What? Ichigo was flustered. Well? Rukia asked again. You Ichigo stopped walking. Thinking about what to say, and walking was too much for his body and brain. He mumbled something incoherent and then started walking as fast as he could, but Rukia was too fast for him. What? Say that again, she teased, I thought you said, yes. She quickened her stride to keep up with Ichigo. Oomph. Say it, I didn't hear it properly. Well, why wouldn't you be? He's so cold, and his freaky sword that turns into tiny blades. Ha ha ha. So you are scared of him? Rukia giggled. Ichigo was actually scared of someone. Shut up. They walked a few more minutes in silence before Rukia piped up again, this time a bit quieter. Hey, Ichigo. What? Back then, when you fought Nii-sama. Ichigo kept walking. Rukia didn't finish her question. At that time. Ichigo knew what she was talking about. At that time, he repeated, I wasn't scared for some reason. I mean, I felt his power, it's just that. I was so intent with saving you. Suddenly the ground seemed very interesting. Oh, so you weren't scared because of me? Rukia jokingly asked, in an annoyingly sweet tone. Shut up, Ichigo looked away, blushing. DMN that Rukia. He stomped forward, trying to hide his blushing in the dark. Rukia on the other hand, just laughed inwardly and followed, thinking deeply. Ichigo was such a kid. She frowned. But, back then something had happened between them. After 150 years of living, she finally had her first kiss. It totally did not go as she had thought it would. First, she had thought it would be with Rinji. After all, there were no other guys in which she held any sort of romantic interest in. For sure, there were guys that had a romantic interest in her, but they had quickly found out, via Rinji's fist, that even though Rukia did seem like a sweet, pretty Shinigami, not to mention a potential girlfriend, it wasn't worth trying to get past the redhead that jealously guarded her. Except, now there was Ichigo, who had in a way gotten past her childhood friend. Her thoughts turned back to the moment of affection they had. Did that kiss they have even count as a real kiss? At least the place where the kiss took place was where she imagined it to be. Since Renji and her always went to that place, she had imagined that one day, he would kiss her on top of that hill. That was before she went to the real world and met Kurosaki Ichigo. The boy that changed her life. Had her feelings changed? She looked at his back, he was still stomping away. She stifled a laugh. Ichigo. What? Ichigo answered without breaking his stride, without turning around. Even though he was always like this, she realized that he always answered her, no matter what. What about Renji? Shut up. Oh crap. Someone was gonna be hurt when she woke up. And Hitsugaya had a bad feeling that it was going to be him. After he, accidentally knocked her out when she walked out of her room, what was she doing walking out of her room anyway? Toshiro carried her to her mattress and laid her down. Now, for half an hour now, he had patiently knelt by her bed, and waited for her to wake. Even if he was a captain, sitting patiently, not to mention closely, to one of the prettiest Shinigami while she was sleeping was no easy feat. He would rather face a million Minos Grandes than do this. And this certain vice-captain was the one he had certain attachments to. There was no way in hell, or for that matter Soul Society, that he was going to say, even if it was in his mind, that he was in. Arg. His face twisted due to all the thoughts whirling around in his head. Geez, even if he was nicknamed Genius, this was way beyond his realm. Hinamori opened her eyes. There was Shiro-chan, engrossed in some deep thought, judging by the way his face was making, weird faces. This was kind of disturbing to wake up to. Why was he here anyway? This must be one of her dreams that she was so used to having. Ah no, Shiro-chan. What? The 10th Division captain looked blankly down at her. What? Hitsugaya leapt back a few feet. You were awake. His expression changed to an annoyed one. And don't call me that. Shiro-chan, what are you doing in my room? This dream, well, it seemed a bit real. But it couldn't be real. Shiro-chan would be in his quarters, sleeping at this time of the night. I just came by. Hitsugaya scooted a bit closer from where he jumped back. For what? About today, sorry. Hitsugaya blushed a deep red. He placed his hand at the back of his neck. Today, what happened today? Oh yeah, they fell on top of each other and... it's okay. Ah, this was dreamlike. The real Hitsugaya would never come to her room to apologize. So this was a dream, since it felt so good. And, she reasoned, in her sleepy mind, since it was a dream, she could do stuff that she wouldn't usually. In real life, that is. Anyway, she always did this in her dreams. Well, I better go now, it's getting late. He turned to go. Wait. This was weird. In all her dreams he had always been forward with her. She grabbed his sleeve. Sleep here with me. Ha. Hitsugaya turned around, blushing at her touch. Shiro-chan. It looked like she was about to cry. But what happens if tomorrow? He was cut off because Hinamori had dragged him onto her futon. She frowned. Shiro-chan usually wasn't this reluctant in her dreams. Like that other dream she had last night, where he kissed her on the roof. Hitsugaya sighed inwardly. What was Hinamori thinking? At this time, he couldn't move, because Hinamori's arm was draped around him. Crap, and he was still in his captain's uniform, and in her futon. Actually, it was kind of warm, now that he thought about it. Maybe he could just wake up early in the morning and pretend it never happened. He closed his eyes and was about to drift off into dreamland, which he felt might be a bit weird tonight, when he felt Hinamori's arm shift slightly. Hinamori grabbed the top of his shoulder, and turned Hitsugaya around, until he was facing her. This was her dream, and she could do anything she wanted with it. She looked into the blushing captain's face. She leant in and kissed him passionately, leaving a shocked Hitsugaya with his eyes wide open, not to mention his mouth. I'm going to sleep now. She cuddled into him and closed her eyes. Ah, I love these dreams I've been having. If nothing can happen in real life, then at least, in my dreams, I can really love Shiro-chan. Hitsugaya just lay there, just hoping, that he could somehow get a tiny amount of sleep that night. A summer job, morning work meetings. Ah, captain's meeting. Boring as usual. Hitsugaya yawned quietly. At least everything seemed normal amongst the captains. Well, normal being the usual death threats from Zaraki to everyone in general, the annoying Weasley voice of Kuratsuchi Mayuri muttering to himself about how he was going to kick his stupid vice-captain Nimue for burning his breakfast, which by the way, wasn't her fault. Then there was loud depressing sighs from Kiraku Shunsui, still dreaming about his vice-captain. It was the only time he could without getting hit by her. Yukitake looking around the room absent-mindedly, Soi Fong, who stood up straight, serious, and looking annoyed as usual. Then there was, Hitsugaya looked further down the line. Kuchiki Byakuya looking as disdainful as he could in front of the First Division captain, Unohana who was looking as peaceful as usual, well, as peaceful as you can be, if a certain bloodthirsty 11th Division captain was growling out death threats to every other person in the room, although funnily enough, none of those threats were ever directed at her, Hitsugaya noted with a smirk. Then, of course, towering above the rest, was Sajin. Hitsugaya shivered. That wolf-fox guy was weird. Not to mention scary. And tall. Hitsugaya averted his gaze. There was that orange-haired guy that was somehow so annoying. The orange-haired captain turned when he felt someone gazing at him. And met ice-cold eyes. Well, actually he looked at some spiky whitish-blue hair, then realized who he was actually looking at. Ahem. The First Division captain cleared his throat, suspiciously louder than usual. It was hard to believe that this rowdy lot called themselves captains. Eventually the noise died down, and the captain started to pay attention. The old man sighed inwardly. Though the captains didn't know it, but the reason why he had to schedule the captains' meeting so early in the morning, was because they didn't settle down for about half an hour. So now the ruckus had died down. The old captain waited for complete silence, but there was something niggling in the back of his mind. He heard, snickering. His eyes shifted to the source of the sound, and saw the new captain, Kurosaki Ichigo, snickering like a little girl. He made his eyes flash dangerously, but the new captain just kept giggling away. IGM. Ichigo looked up from his snickering and looked around. Oh. They had actually started the meeting. He stifled his giggling and stood up straight, trying to keep a straight face. The old man sighed. That would have to do. Though, he wondered absent-mindedly, what would make Ichigo snicker like that. Let's start the meeting. Ichigo zoned out after that. He just couldn't help but remember last night, and the old man's voice was so boring. Flashback. It was getting late. They had passed the living quarters of the first 4 divisions, and they had paused at the vice-captain's quarters of the 5th division. Oi, Rukia, why did you stop here? Ichigo grumbled as he nearly bumped into the short Shinigami. She looked at him blankly. Go check on your vice-captain, idiot. Huh? He returned her blank stare. You're a captain. Captains always check on their vice-captains before the day ends. The day ended a long time ago, Rukia. Smack. Her fist met his chin. Ow, 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 okay. Ichigo rubbed his chin. Now that they were in Soul Society, her punches actually hurt a bit. Jeez. He grumbled. It was too late at night to argue, and even though he loved to argue with Rukia, he really wanted to sleep right now. He slid the door open a crack, then closed it. Okay, done. He straightened up. Can I go to sleep now? She kicked him in the back. Okay. I'll check. Properly. He mimicked in an annoyingly high voice. which earned him another kick in the backside. This time he slid the door open more than just a crack. Yes, yes, there was Hinamori, sleeping peacefully. Jeez. What did Rukia expect to find anyway? Her sprawled out on the floor, bleeding. Hold on. Was it his imagination, or did Hinamori look a bit larger than usual? Like, two lumps, of, people. Two people. Ichigo took a step inside the room. He was about to take another step, when he was caught by Rukia. What the heck are you doing? She hissed. You checked already, no need PRV on her. WHWA. Ichigo blinked. Per VRT. Shut up. No. Loser. Friken Rukia. Leave it to her to think that he was perving on his vice-captain. But it was too late at night, and he couldn't give a stuff anymore. Look at her bed. Doesn't it seem kinda fake to you? Huh? Rukia asked. This was weird. Ichigo didn't name-call her back. She looked inside the darkened room. She saw what he was wondering about. See? That's why I was checking. He rolled his eyes. Yeah. She paused, one step inside the room. Look, wait here, and I'll see what's going on. We wouldn't want people to think you were perving on your vice-captain now, would we? Ichigo groaned. Only Rukia would think something as absurd as that. Why would he want to check out his vice-captain anyway? For sure, he acknowledged that she was prettier than most other lady Shinigamis, but he held no interest in her whatsoever. And since it was so obvious to the rest of the court of pure souls that her jealous protector was that little brat of a captain, who, even though was a little brat, he was a strong little brat, that most people wouldn't want to mess with. Besides, he was knocked out of his train of thought when Rukia hissed at him. He looked into the room. And blinked. Rukia wasn't there. Oi. She tugged his captain uniform from behind him. I'm here, idiot. Huh. Ichigo whirled around. Wadash. Let's go. She started walking away from the room. Rukia, did you check already? Yes I did, now let's go. Rukia had suddenly started acting strangely. Tired as he was, he knew he wouldn't get any sort of response from Rukia when she acted like this. Ichigo. Just wait. Ichigo quietly stepped into the room and walked to the side of his vice-captain's futon. He looked, then before he started bursting into laughter, he quickly ran outside the door, as quietly as he could, closed it, then hurried over to where Rukia was standing. Ichigo would have awakened the whole Godiai 13 if it wasn't for Rukia's fast hand which clamped down over his mouth. She dragged the laughing Ichigo with her other hand to a safe distance and waited for him to calm down. Finished yet? Guys were so immature at these sorts of things. Yeah. Then he started rolling on the floor in laughter. Did you see the look on his face? Yeah, get over it, Ichigo. Rukia frowned at him. I thought it was sweet. You what? Rukia continued frowning down at him. Honestly, this guy acted so mature at times, and at others, acted so, friken childish. Okay, so the most widely spoken about couple in the court of pure souls were sleeping together, in a good way that is. And this was the first time she had seen them. Okay, she would allow herself a small giggle when she got to Byakuya's mansion, but that would be it. Only for the sake of Hitsugaya Taishu's face. No need to roll herself on the ground like this idiot in front of her. I can't believe they actually sleep together. They don't. Which was the wrong thing to say, Rukia immediately told herself. Oh. Ichigo's mouth curled up into a smirk. Don't even think about it, Ichigo. What? Don't what me? No blackmailing. She demanded. Yeah, good night. Ichigo picked himself up off the ground, and headed to his living quarters. Rukia looked at his back. That loser. He didn't even walk her home. But, she chuckled quietly to herself, that was probably because of her brother. End flashback. Okay. That's all for today. Yamamoto's sharp old voice cut through Ichigo's thoughts. Before you all leave, please remember to confirm your vice-captain's choice about going into the all-out competition for the remaining 2 vacant captain places. If there is anyone else wanting to try out, other than your respective vice-captain, just tell me. I will take care of all other Shinigamis wanting to try out. That is all. The captains shuffled out the door. Ichigo caught Hitsugaya's eye. Then cracked up laughing again. What? Hitsugaya scowled. Ichigo looked back at the white-haired genius. Oh, funny joke. The genius looked at the orange-haired captain then strode off, his nose in the air. Ichigo was about to follow suit, well without the nose in the air bit, when he heard the old man say something. Kurosaki Taishu. Ichigo turned around to see Yamamoto speaking to him. Yes. Because I am concerned about your well-being, please refrain from letting your vice-captain try out for captaincy. Even though she may well have the skills and abilities to become a captain, the duels are, after all, life-threatening. Yamamoto looked at him. Ichigo looked back and blinked. So. I'm not taking part in it. Yamamoto smiled. Sometimes, humans could be so dense. Yes, I know that. However, if your vice-captain tries out, she will have her life on the line. Ichigo looked at the other captain. Did this guy think he was dumb? Yes, I know that as well. You just told me the duels were life-threatening, right? The old man's eyebrow twitched the tiniest bit. If, he grated out with much difficulty, she tries out, you may be in danger of your life. Huh? Ichigo blinked. The old man could feel some burning desire to fry this ignorant captain right here, right now, and, no pun intended. If, the old man's eyebrow twitched, she dies, a certain captain may not be very happy. You may have an unwanted fight in your hands. Who's this certain captain? Ichigo asked as innocently as he could. The room exploded into flames. Ichigo leapt backwards outside the room. Okay, I get you. He left the smoldering room. Geez, old man, can't even take a joke. He muttered under his breath. Of course I knew who it was, it's not like I'm dumb. Meanwhile, Yamamoto sat in the meeting room, clenching and unclenching his fists. Young Friday-ken hooligans these Friday-ken days. He then proceeded to mutter a collection of colorful profanities. Which was a lot, since he had been alive, well dead, but still alive, for an extremely long time. Hinamori walked out of her vice-captain meeting. Nothing new. She looked around, then decided to head off to her quarters to her new captain. As she was walking towards the 5th division she almost bumped into Hitsugaya. Oh, Shiro-chan. She immediately blushed. The white-haired captain looked up at his childhood friend. What? And don't call me Shiro-chan. He looked away to hide the slight tinge of red coming to his face. He left her room extremely early in the morning. There was no way she possibly knew about, and what about last night anyway? That had been on his thoughts ever since ever since last night really. Shiro-chan, can I ask you something? Yes, but only if you would stop calling me Shiro Friday-ken-chan. Oh, what the hell was she gonna ask? She doesn't know, she doesn't know, she doesn't know. He chanted mentally. Hinamori giggled. Okay, Hitsugaya-kun. Hitsugaya looked at her, and arched an eyebrow. What? She doesn't know, she doesn't know, but she kissed me. How could she not possibly know, when she kissed me? She blushed deeper. What were you doing in my room last night? The white-haired genius promptly fainted. A summer job, employing. The old captain sat there. Nothing new, just sitting. This time, however, he was thinking about a new matter. Who were there amongst the vice-captains whose skills could actually be considered captain level? The old man mused to himself. Well, there was his vice-captain, but Yamamoto knew that his vice-captain probably performed better as a vice-captain. The next one to come up was Jin's vice-captain, Kira. He could probably pass for a captain. Kira would be an okay choice. The problem was that if he knew Ban Kai already. The old captain shrugged. Probably not. The other vice-captains were pretty useless. Hinamori Momo was a formidable fighter, however putting her in the tournament would pose a very high threat to all those involved, thanks to the protectiveness of the 10th Division captain. Well, she was out. Anyway, she probably couldn't handle it, with Aizen's loss and all. Next up was Hisagi. The Shinigami that had been the most popular, and one of the strongest in his grade at the Shinigami Academy. He definitely was a candidate. His skills were sharp in all areas, he was brave, and had excellent leadership qualities. However, Yamamoto had heard a rumor that he had been beaten by the rank of 5th officer. When the old man had first heard that, he nearly fainted. A 5th officer beating a vice-captain? However, when he heard that the 5th officer was from the 11th Division, understanding dawned upon him. That 11th Division, under Zaraki Kenpachi, definitely had promise. Speaking of which, he had also heard rumors that Ikaku had achieved his Ban Kai. Ikaku was definitely going to be a candidate. He listed those names in his head that he needed to have a special talk to. Kira, Hisagi, and Ikaku. He sent his vice-captain to get them. Shiro-chan. Hitsugaya groaned. Shiro-chan. Someone was calling him. It was a sweet voice. Shiro-chan. This time Hitsugaya opened his eyes to look full in the face of Hinamori. He nearly fainted again. He thought Hinamori was beautiful. In the past few decades he would never admit it to himself. However, after those past few decades he had done some growing up. He now would allow himself to say that she was pretty. Only to himself, of course, no one else. That would take another couple of decades. Shiro-chan, what's wrong? Her eyes gazed down on him in concern. Gazed down on him? Why was she looking down on him, like he was lying down? Hitsugaya moved slightly, and felt where he was lying down. On her lap. Another near faint. Luckily, Hinamori chose that time to wave her hands in front of his face. Okay, I'm alive. Hitsugaya sat up slowly, reluctant to leave his position on Hinamori's lap. He sat up with his back facing towards her, remembering what she had asked that had made him faint. Hinamori looked at her childhood friend. Well, his back. Shiro-chan. What? Why? And don't call me that. Were you in my room last night? Hitsugaya's genius brain was ticking faster than the speed of light. He tried to conjure up all these excuses, but all that came to his mind was the pressure of her lips upon his. Hold on. This question she asked just now was a bit different to the one before. She blushed deeper. What were you doing in my room last night? Maybe, just maybe, there was some slim chance that she didn't know. Hitsugaya put on his best disbelieving voice and turned around. Hinamori, I wasn't in your room. Looking her straight in the eye, he said, dreaming of me, maybe? That was a flirting tone. Hinamori couldn't believe her ears. Shiro-chan, flirting. It was too good to be true. Maybe she had just interpreted it wrong. Hitsugaya looked up to see Hinamori's face light up temporarily, then cloud over. Oh. She looked, almost, sad. That's what it must have been. What must have been? She returned to her usual shy self. I had a dream about you. Oh. Hitsugaya stuttered. Okay, things were definitely getting out of hand. He had to say something, What was it about? Okay, so he had to say something but not that. Well. She didn't look him in the eye. I had a dream that you came to me. She paused. You were being very sweet. She blushed furiously. It just seemed so real, so I had to ask you, 'cause you know, how dreams sometimes seem so real, and, yeah, don't worry, it was just a dream. Hitsugaya nodded, he didn't know what to say. But he did know that he could not tell her that it wasn't a dream, because if he did, it would, make things so awkward between them. People just don't walk up to some other person and go, "Oh, guess what, you know that dream you had about me and you kissing?" Yeah, well, you know, it was actually real. That was just way too random. Not like he cared about him and Hinamori kissing. No, not at all. Anyway, I have to go now, Shiro-chan. She stood up. Stop with the Shiro-chan. He sighed, and stood up. They stood there for a moment. Hitsugaya felt relieved and ashamed at the same time. Relieved because Hinamori was just doing that stuff last night because she thought it was a dream, ashamed because he had lied to her. Oh, wow, Shiro-chan, you really are getting taller. Her sweet voice cut through his melancholy thoughts. Huh? He looked at her. Actually, it was true, he could see her whole face without having to crane his neck. Oh, yeah. And, you look a bit older. More, handsome. Hinamori giggled. Whatever. Hitsugaya strolled off casually, pretending not to care about her compliment, even though, for some unknown reason his heart was beating at an absurdly fast rate. He lifted one hand. Bye. Bye, Shiro-chan. A large drop of sweat formed rather quickly on the captain's head. She would never stop calling him that. But secretly, he liked it. There was no way that he was going to tell that to anyone. As he made his way to his office, he bumped into the orange-haired Shinigami. Watch where you're going, Kurosaki Taishu. Hitsugaya was still slightly annoyed at Ichigo for laughing at him for no particular reason. Everyone else, he could keep his cool. For some reason Ichigo just ignited his temper. Now, no need to talk dirty. Ichigo smirked. Imagine what would happen if, suddenly, the whole 10th Division found out where their captain really was last night. With that, the new captain swaggered off, noting with mild surprise that it had begun to snow. Hisagi, Kira, and Ikiku made their way to Yamamoto's quarters. Just as they were about to reach the undercover area, Ikiku swore. What's the deal with this snow? My head's cold. Well, don't shave it then, Baldy. I don't want to hear that from you, tattoo face. Shut up. It's art, not a tattoo. Art my butt. Yes, your butt, on your head. Kira looked at the two of them and sighed loudly. All he really wanted to do was concentrate on his emo haircut. That definitely rocked over these two guys' hair arguments. The two of them stopped their bickering and glared at the sire. Kira looked up at them. Pfft, don't include me in your lame arguments about hair. Mine is the best anyway. Your hair. Hisagi spluttered out. Well, excuse me for not having an emo haircut like yours. Ikiku joined in. It's not even dyed black. Just as Kira was about to release his Soul Slayer Yamamoto motioned for them to come inside. I had originally desired to just give you guys a general conversation outside, but it seems we can't have that due to this unexpected weather. Yamamoto frowned. Probably some poor Shinigami that had tried to flirt with the 5th Division vice captain, and had unfortunately got caught. He nodded sagely to himself. That must be it. The three vice captains followed the captain inside his quarters while glaring at one another. The reason why I have called you here should be obvious. Captain's positions. It was Kira who spoke up first. Nah, he wants us to clean the toilets. Ikiku answered in a bland voice. The vice captains returned to listening mode. Anyway, which of you wants to become a captain? No one moved, or said anything for that matter. Even though they knew it was about the vacant positions when asked the question they stood there, dumbstruck. Okay, let me ask it like this, stay here if you want to become a captain. Yamamoto watched as Kira and Ikaku started inching backwards towards the doorway. Zip. Kira and Ikaku were gone. Hisagi just stood there, wondering why the other two had left. Those two could have qualified as captains. This wasn't predicted. Oh well, the less people trying out, the easier. So, you want to be a captain, Hisagi? Yes, sir. Since your captain isn't here to enter you into the tournament, I shall see to it. The old man paused before saying, you may leave. Thank you, sir. The old man watched the vice-captain's retreating form. Let's see if you really can handle being a Gotei 13 captain. As soon as he was out the door, Hisagi flash-stepped to catch up to Ikaku and Kira. Guys, what's the deal? Ikaku and Kira slowed down. Kira spoke up first, while looking at the ground. I don't feel like I'm strong enough for the responsibility of captain. Hisagi shrugged. That was expected. But Ikaku. Ikaku probably was better than every single vice-captain in the whole Gotei, and, Hisagi knew, that somehow, Ikaku had gotten his Bankai. That was a sure ticket to captaincy. Well. My only wish is to serve under that man, Zaraki Kenpachi. Oh. Seeing the usually joking Ikaku so serious made him feel awkward. Well, be seeing you guys around. Renji yawned. That was such a boring vice-captain meeting. It was so boring, that even now, half an hour later, it got to him. He scowled, and kicked a rock along the footpath. He looked up to see where it went, then doubled over as the rock came flying back at him. What the foo? Tisk, tsk. Shouldn't kick rocks around, Renji. Renji grimaced, then grinned. Ouch. Damn it, Rukia, did you really have to kick it back that hard? Yes. Renji straightened up, then scratched the back of head. I'll never understand you, he muttered to himself. I can explain myself with the help of a few drawings. Okay, stop. Anything but her drawings. I understand you. Rukia grinned evilly. What do you have on today? She asked sincerely. Nothing, I was going to go visit our old place. Want to come? Sure. As they walked towards their childhood, Rukia made no mention that she actually had been there just the night before. Actually, just being there didn't really mean anything, Renji knew she visited by herself from time to time. However, if she happened to be with a captain named Kurosaki Ichigo, it would turn into an entirely different story. She laughed in spite of herself as they continued walking. Renji stopped and frowned at her. What's so funny? Nothing, nothing. Let's keep going. You. Yes, Aizen-sama. I want you to scout out that region once more. There is a girl there who I would like to assess. Certainly, Aizen-sama. Oh, and one more thing. Bring a friend. You might get hurt. Yes, Aizen-sama. This is the girl. Aizen took a picture out from beneath his robes. The Arrancar looked closely at the picture. Go. The Arrancar turned from the presence of Aizen. The former Shinigami captain just sat there, until a voice interrupted his thoughts. Oh my, now why would you be using the likes of him? Jin. It is not that difficult to retrieve a mere girl from the human world. She does, after all, have some amount of spirit power. Besides, if I send stronger Arrancars they would be detected by him. Whatever you say, boss. Come on, Rukia. Renji looked behind him to see his childhood friend merely strolling. Oh, please, since when did we have to run to this place? I'm not running. It's called a fast walking pace. Fast walking pace my foot. Shut up. Look, we're here. They reached the peak of the hill that overlooked Rukongai. Renji stretched. I haven't been here in ages. Rukia, at his side, was silent. She had practically just been here. Her eyes glanced over to the side where her and Ichigo had that stupid picnic. What was she thinking then? Actually, she wasn't really thinking about the picnic, she was more thinking of what she had done during the picnic. They had kissed. Oi, Rukia, stop drifting off. Renji's clear voice cut through her thoughts. Huh? Rukia realized that she was staring not at the remarkable view, but at a patch of grass beside them. That, of course, counted as weird behavior. Oh, yeah, I was just thinking, about something. Renji shrugged. Rukia was still Rukia, even though at times she acted rather strangely. Even more so now, when Kurosaki Ichigo had come into their lives. The thought of Kurosaki Ichigo temporarily darkened his thoughts. Sure, Ichigo was a good friend, but there was one vital thing that stuck in the way of their friendship. Well, not a thing, but a person. Kuchiki Rukia. Before, when they used to go on these trips together, Rukia would pay him full attention, and he would try to show off to her, about how he was so strong, etc. Now that Ichigo had come into the picture, she would usually just stare off into the distance, as if remembering her times with Ichigo. When Ichigo left, last time, she had become a body, with no emotions, a person that couldn't quite get the kick in life. When Ichigo returned, however, it was like real, flowing, life just entered that dead body. DMN Ichigo. Rukia. Yes. This time she answered. She was painfully aware that their friendship had drifted further and further apart. She knew it was partly because of her. Do you? Renji didn't finish his sentence. He decided it would be too dangerous, way too dangerous. However, Rukia didn't say anything, obviously waiting for him to finish. He sighed inwardly. Do you, like Ichigo? Their question was out. Her response was quite a weird one. Rukia turned to him, looking all flustered, and a tinge of pink had appeared on her cheeks. What? She paused for a moment, lost for words. What makes you say that? DMN Rukia. He knew she'd avoid the question like this. I just was curious. Curious? Rukia was spluttering. She was in an awkward position. She knew, even though most people thought she didn't, that Renji harbored feelings towards her. She didn't want to hurt her childhood friend, so her response was, well, I don't like him. Renji turned his head to look at Rukia. She was such a good liar. Liar. What? I said, liar. He had been around her too long. This long, and he knew when she was lying, and when she was telling the truth. She definitely was lying. And even if he hadn't been around her for very long, he would have still called her a liar, because the way she acted when Ichigo was around, was very different from the way she acted around everyone else. Even though they fought a lot, it was still obvious. You didn't need to be a rocket scientist to see the chemistry between those two. Sometimes, Renji wished that you did have to be a rocket scientist. Rukia looked at her red-haired friend. What was he getting at? She opened her mouth to retort, but was cut off by a change of tone in Renji's voice. You know, I overheard a bit of your conversation with Kuchiki Taishu last night. Oh. That was it. The reason why Renji was being so weird today. That drat conversation. That's why I wanted to know. Flashback. The red-haired Shinigami tossed and turned in his bed. Frickin' hell, he growled to himself. For some reason he could not get to sleep. Like always, there was too much things on his mind. First off, there was Rukia. When you're about 150 years old you'd think that you'd get over a girl pretty quickly, right? Wrong. Renji thought about Rukia while he lay in his bed almost every single night. But this night, something else was bothering him. He just couldn't get to bed. After tossing and turning a little longer, Renji threw the covers off his futon and stomped outside for a walk. He walked aimlessly, and soon he found himself near the residence of his captain, Kuchiki Byakuya. Renji looked up at the huge mansion, then resumed his walk. Well, he tried to, and then stopped when he heard Byakuya's voice very clearly. Kuchiki Taishu was awake. Why are you late? The tone was so cold. But it was so obvious that there was some affection below that dark, I'm too good for everyone tone. That could only mean one thing. He was talking to Rukia. So Rukia returned home late, did she? Renji smirked. This was typical big brother treatment. But why did she return home late? I was with Kurosaki Taishu, Nii-sama. Oh. Ichigo, eh. Well, of course, who else would she be out so late with? Is that so? That was a statement. Not a question. Renji stood still outside the mansion, waiting to hear more. There was a brief moment of silence, then he heard Byakuya continue. Why do you spend so much time with him, Rukia? Ni-sama, he is, my friend. Are you sure? What? Rukia stopped speaking for a moment. Oh, of course I'm sure he's my friend. Rukia. Think carefully. Is he more than just a friend? After that, he couldn't hear the rest of the conversation. Probably because Rukia had gone to her quarters. But what he heard. End flashback. Did you do what your brother had asked? Oh, so he had heard most of the conversation, even up to the point when her brother had asked her if she thought of Ichigo as more than a friend. Damn it. Why did Renji, of all people, have to hear the conversation between her and her brother? Yes. Her reply wasn't that clear, but Renji heard it anyway. Oh. Suddenly things seemed a bit awkward between them. Renji took a deep breath. He knew that she liked Ichigo. Even if she didn't know it herself, he knew, deep down, that she liked Ichigo. Well, what he was about to say now was useless, because of that guy. Rukia. Yes. She replied, not looking at him directly. I like you, he blurted out. If Rukia had looked at this situation at a different time, she would have thought to herself that it was about DMN time Renji told her. But now, with different circumstances, and Ichigo, what was she to say? Thankfully she was saved, because Renji hadn't finished. I know this won't accomplish anything, because of him, but I'm just telling you this because, I thought you needed to know. Renji stopped. What he seriously wanted to say was that he frickin' liked her, and that he was hopelessly jealous of Ichigo. Renji. Silence. Both parties didn't know what to say. Rukia had always imagined that when Renji confessed to her, she would gently take him in his arms and tell him that she felt the same way too. After all, she did like him, but now. Tell me, Renji broke her thoughts again and she was about to break his heart. Well, she already had. The answer to your brother's question. Rukia opened her mouth to say, no, of course I don't like Ichigo more than a friend. What the hell do you think I am, liking some stupid mortal? Before she could, however, Renji grabbed her by the shoulders and looked her in the eye. You don't need to lie to me, Rukia. A pause. It hurts me more. Rukia felt sorry for her friend. Basically all she could do now, was tell him. But, she was not telling him the answer to her brother's question. Instead what she said was, sorry. Another pause. Sorry, Renji. I can't, return your feelings. Renji let go of her shoulders. He laughed harshly. Idiot, I know. He didn't say the next few words, because he knew she would vehemently deny it. It's him, isn't it? Instead, he waited for another few moments to pass by. You better have feelings for Ichigo. It was a statement. Questioning her about it was useless. And you better let him know, or else. But, what, about you? Rukia managed to get the words out. Renji laughed harshly again, although a bit softer this time. Don't worry about me, Rukia. As long as you're happy, then I'm happy. Which was a lie, though some of it was true. Of course, when Rukia was happy, he was happy, but this particular time, being happy with Ichigo, he just couldn't take it, but at least he could hide it. If he treats you badly, just tell me. I'll kill him. With that, Renji turned his back on her. Sayonara. Rukia just stood there, looking at his disappearing back. She didn't know what to say. Her best friend had read her completely. And, he had used that word. Sayonara. A sad, sad, farewell, with sad, sad music playing in her head. As she watched him go, tears started to fall. She didn't want to make her best friend feel like this. Renji, she screamed out, in an attempt to make him stop, even though, she knew she couldn't do anything. The red-haired stopped momentarily. He then kept walking, just walking. He felt a slight dampness on his cheek. He looked up at the sky. It was clear. A few minutes later a messenger appeared right in front of him, kneeling, with a scroll clasped in his right hand. Abarai Renji, you are required to report to the meeting hall immediately. Renji looked down at the messenger. He took the scroll offered. The messenger looked up to see the red-haired Shinigami's response. He wasn't there. That must have been a serious message then. He stood up, about to leave, when he saw a raven-haired Shinigami walking slowly down the road. Ah, that was Kuchiki Rukia. He remembered what he had been told. Vice Captain Renji and Kuchiki Rukia have left on a trip of some sort. Find them, and tell them that they need to report to the meeting hall immediately. This was great. He didn't need to look for the girl after all. Kuchiki Rukia. You are required to report to the meeting hall immediately. With that the messenger disappeared. Rukia looked up, and wiped the tears from her eyes. Why not a hell butterfly? This must be important. Renji opened up the scroll once again, while flash stepping to get to the meeting hall faster. What he read disturbed him greatly. 2 Arrancar have been confirmed in the real world. Details will be provided at the emergency meeting. It seemed that they were making another move. A summer job, Operation TA, Part 1. Silence. The old man's voice did not change tone, but for some reason all the Shinigamis assembled quietened down. Probably because it was an emergency meeting and the old man never called emergency meetings unless, well, it was a real emergency. Like those times when Matsumoto had to be rushed to the 4th Division because of lack of oxygen one particular afternoon, when she accidentally slept on her stomach, and well, her large assets proved to be a weapon, yet again. Sure, that was an emergency, but Yamamoto only called these meetings when something big was up. The old man opened his mouth to speak, when Renji, the vice captain of the 6th Division arrived. He quickly walked to his spot next to Kuchiki Byakuya, who looked like he was about to kill his vice captain for being tardy. The reason why we are gathered here. He was cut off again by the entrance of another Shinigami, Kuchiki Rukia. The old man noted with mild astonishment that Renji didn't even look up when Rukia entered the room. Of all of the people in Soul Society, Renji was the one that would always be the first one to know when Rukia was around, when she was coming, when she was going, etc. Something, this time, was definitely wrong between the 2 best friends. However, there were more important things going on rather than the relationship between the 2 Shinigami. Yamamoto cleared his throat, and acknowledged the 2 Shinigami. You all know the reason why we are gathered here. Since we do not have much time, I will make this brief. Yamamoto paused momentarily and quickly scanned the room. Good. Everyone that needed to be here was here. As you know, 2 Arrancar have been confirmed in the real world. The questions we need to ask ourselves are these: how strong are they? And who is going to go defeat them? These 2 questions interrupted the sharp silence that had pervaded the room. The once quiet meeting hall now turned into a flurry of questions, mutterings, and yelling. The old man sighed and closed his eyes, but his ears heard a lot of things. Arrancar's hey. I don't care, as long as they are strong enough to cut me. That must have been Zaraki, the old man thought. Zaraki, sometimes, even scared him. Actually, Kenpachi, I would advise against putting yourself in such difficult positions. It has become quite a chore for me to heal you continuously. Some of the other members present grinned. Anohana Taishu definitely was a good thing for the bloodthirsty 11th Division captain, Yamamoto decided. I'm going. No one try to stop me. My family is there. Definitely his new captain, Kurosaki Ichigo. Pfft, as if you'll be enough to take out those Arrancar. I bet you couldn't even take out one of them, a sneering voice proclaimed. Renji Abarai, the old man declared to himself. The only one who would reply to Ichigo like that. Renji. Do not use such a provocative tone. It is unbecoming of you. The infamous statue, Kuchiki Byakuya. Yes, Kuchiki Taishu. Yes, oh, yes. More, experiments. Ugh. That captain. Kuratsuchi Mayuri. The old man didn't even want to know what actions accompanied those words, though he did suspect it would be something along the lines of drooling, and crazy eye movements. That last statement made everyone go silent. Boomf. I don't care. The genius, and shortest captain, Hitsugaya Tushiru, had finally broken the awkward silence. I want to go as well. This could, well, clear some things up for me, a young female voice piped up. The old man's eyebrows rose a little. Hinamori. Actually, on second thoughts, I definitely want to come. The old man smirked inwardly. It was funny how the 5th Division vice-captain had such a strong influence on the Shinigami nicknamed Genius. After hearing, and laughing silently to himself, a few more random comments made by the Shinigami Yamamoto decided to stop the rowdy lot. It was just as well he did, because Zaraki had almost chopped off Byakuya's head, for telling him that the Arrancars wouldn't fall prey to someone who didn't even know the name of his own sword. After calming the captains and vice-captains down, with the help of a blast of his sword, the old man